Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's like the portfolios change, and this right here will be talking about after school. And I'm sure that anybody I think about, I'm like, yeah, after about maybe 6 or 7 postings it is. But this right here will be talking about for after school though. That I'm sure that anybody who's a student that thinking about is like anything that they need to be doing if it's going to be let's just say if class is over with for the day and they decide to, whenever they get home and then they want to work a little bit more for what they got to do, if we want to call it, maybe a homework or just what it calls like on occasional time or something like that. But this right here, I'm sure we've seen this already, that you're talking about, for the, you're designing, you're growing up, for anything that, any type of measure that any type of study, important of study for higher level education that we put our minds focused on and put our minds up to. And if anybody were to think about, I'm like, yep, that I can maybe change this too. But then if anybody say, if from the previous videos I have posted, if anybody were to be if we would have missed a few things that were advertised on here, such as for time management, and then as well as for the second page right here, it's like for have fun, as well as for after school hours. So if anybody were to look at the my recent postings, if it's going to be about for portfolios change, to I'll say for backup, as well as like for any the other previous video postings that I worked, but also talk about right here is like for have fun, and then for digital designing. So anybody who's going to be a student that may think about necessarily to where that, hey, that, well, while they were working, and then they're thinking about necessarily to where that, after class hours, that you spend about maybe 2 or 3 hours working on something, and then, by the time you get home, and then you work a little bit more. And we're like Warren to where really that, a lot of the work that we're doing, if it really only needs to be presented in the classroom, or if it could also be presented maybe like, yeah, that, if it's going to be like something that you're working on at home, or maybe, going to the library, the city library, or maybe the coffee shop, wherever that they could have maybe the wireless access, and you're able to, work a little bit more for what you got to do. But I'm like Warren to where that, what I usually call time recorded, that any source of information that we are working on, if it's going to be like for a documentation or some type of a brief assignment, or if it's going to be anything related to anything that's we're working on in class, or maybe for a company project, maybe for a job that they may think that which I know that they would have rules about that, to where that sorry, that this needs to be completed during the office hours, during the work hours, or during the class hours. So anything that we may think that yeah, that we may think that 3 hours is not going to be enough time to do it. So now we decide, since if we had that capability to where, yeah, we got a PC or Mac at home, we can go and work a little bit more on it at home. But then thinking about, it's like, yeah, that you're between have fun, as well as like for after school hours, outside of class, what are the rules are about the basic advertise about our improvements. And it's like for the use of the time properly. So we are like wondering to where that, we may have heard that before, to where after school activities, but then if it's going to be maybe a band or concert practice or anything like that. But then if we're talking about, after class is over with for the day, and at least until the next day, or until Friday next week, whichever, that we're like warned to where that yeah, really, that we may think that we're working too far ahead, for what we to do, just to have somebody else look over the work. So putting together a portfolios page may mean as to where that this stuff is more likely needs to be done after these courses were completed. But then if there's anything that we like to have changed it. Let's just say that if anybody say that I'm the student, this should be all about me, about what I learned. This is what I want to. This is what I want to include on my portfolios, and there may be some requirements too. So we all know about that. Yeah, is there basically a rule of lesson to where what we need to include on the portfolios? And let's just say that yeah, that there were some time managements from around after school hours to where that, you added, just to learn the program a little bit more, maybe just to learn the coding a little bit more, that this is what you do right here, that you went ahead and practice with I went and practiced with the burn tool on Photoshop and did this work right here, and anybody like want to where, well, don't get too carried away now and don't have too much fun. But anybody that may want to, or what this carried away basically means, it basically means is to where, yep, that you jump a little bit too far, or you're getting extremely anxious to know about what happens next. Oh, okay, well, I get the idea. Well, okay, well, so if anybody were wondering to where anything that catches our attention, if it's going to be like to where after we figure out how to work something and how something works, that this is how this tool will, go ahead and maybe chat with somebody, chat with the teacher online, use the chat discussions board or something, and by the time you figure it out, you may some things that may kind of slip out of a hand to where that, yep, you were supposed to read off the notes, but instead you did not read off the notes. You were reading from what comes to your mind. So usually that, really, any students that may think about that, almost every class that they've been into where that, anything that, was not written down from previous, from the original work, or maybe from, from another, journal diary or anything like that, for any diary or anything that, any notes that were written down from previous assignments that, like one to where that they ask you to go ahead and write a brief your review journal or something like that about all what you learned, and you may have included a few things, maybe a little bit different, or maybe just extra spacing. So if this is, I don't know, I'm like, really, if there's any type of a rule about that, other than if it's coming from your work, from what you learned, don't be copying from from others work. But I can remember that from when I was in the third grade, that the teacher said that don't be looking over somebody else's work. But really, that what do we call it to where that if we were supposed to be using this same information right here, use this as an example, using the same information right here, but then we were supposed to translate it to like maybe another type of a writing, using a new program, and then we may add a few things maybe at the bottom, or some kind of like for higher education, for those of support, or something like that. Why it does, it seem that every 10 hours, and we may want to add about every 150 seconds at the most, we may see some improvement. So we're like Warren to where that, yeah, please don't change anything, just review it, look at it, and then post it. But there may be some students that may warrant to where that really, that if this is supposed to be my education and about my education, my portfolios page, if I want to make a change, and if it's coming from my own time and study, then there should be no arguments. So we're like Warren to where anything about after school hours, anything that we may have found out and researched, and you're like Warren to where that, why is it that and I know that any student that may say that they get mad a lot of times because that they were told from the beginning that on the portfolios page that be creative, do what you like, have fun, this is supposed to be about you. But then after that, and then they may start telling you about there are file size restrictions, as well as for the page resolutions, and then for how many forms that you're allowed to post in your discussions or anything like that. So all these rules as to where that they were probably thinking about, like that they weren't quite clear about that. So we're like Warren to where just to be able to understand a lot of this more, it just seemed like to where if it's going to be maybe the mind feeds to anything that comes to our mind, that yeah, we're assuming that this is going to be the rule and this is going to be the rule about that. But then understanding about the graphics design is that if it's going to be for digital design, any type of major that we may have, and then knowing about the importance about yeah, that for anything that helps improve the education, and knowing about how others view your work, and then for what you learned especially. So I'm sure there's a lot of examples especially, but talk about say for after school right here, and I'm sure anybody probably say by this summer that we may have a few more results especially. But anyway, thanks for watching. It's like May 25 as I talk to say for after school. Have a great day.